Well, hey, everybody. Getting ready to record today's Mike in the Midwest. Do a little sound check and we'll get started. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Where are we at? 32. Let's go to 55. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. I live with that. And let's go. Da, 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 da. Alrighty. Let's do this. What episode number are we on? 125. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 125 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast, and you can find me on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike, and hope we're connecting like I did this past week with Trisha up in Wisconsin, who always gives us great feedback here on the Patreon show. She gave me a picture of her Campbell's soup tree, which I think is incredible. That's one thing I never thought I would see in my lifetime, is a Christmas tree dedicated to Campbell's soup. But there it is up in Wisconsin, and it's retro and it's awesome. And that's what I love about our podcast community, not just the Patreon community, but this is kind of like the super version of our larger podcast community, is that I get to meet people from different places that do different things that are so awesome. It expands my pocket of the world so much through social media, through the power of podcasting, being able to sit here in my new studio, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes, in St. Peters, Missouri, in the dead center of the United States, and get to actually speak to folks around the world. And that is such an amazing thing. It's something I dreamed about as a kid, science fiction. That's how old I am. But now it's science fact. And it's one of those things that I truly am excited for. And I love every week when somebody reaches out on social media and says, hey, I listened to the show, in a certain place that I've never been there and probably will never get there in my lifetime. But I get to learn a little bit about that place, and it expands what I know in my experiences. And I think that is just so very cool. So thank you to everybody who is supporting us here on Patreon. It really does mean a lot. It helps pay the bills for the show. They come in every month, and it really does help us keep chugging along. We'll have episode 2200 of the big show coming up for you on Friday. No end in sight. We're going to keep talking Disney. Lots of news, right? We have the Bob swap this past week. So we had discussion on that. We don't really get into the politics of Disney. We talk more about the fun, the trips, the strategies of getting the most for your money, seeing the most at the Christmas party, making sure you don't miss any good snacks, what rides are, but we get into the fun stuff. We're the Toy Story, the toy store. We try to just keep it light and keep it fun, because that's what vacation should be about, and sharing the memories. When you get finished listening to one of our shows, I hope that you're always got kind of a warm feeling at the end of it. I hope we don't get you too fired up about anything. I know there are shows that do that, and I listen to some of those, and there's a place for those. But I know that we don't have to be that for everybody. If you want that, it's out there. If you want the hot takes on the Bob swap and Iger coming back and Chapek getting fired, that there is a place to have those discussions. There are people that are smarter than me to have those discussions, that know the business and know how that's going to affect the stock price and how that will affect the C-suite and how everybody moves around. I'm not smart enough to talk about that. I have opinions, but I know that my grandpa taught me that, don't be an idiot if you don't know the facts. And if you're not an expert on something, you don't really need to get out there and pretend like you are. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you want to hear my opinion on a lot of things. I just like to share what I like. And it's pretty simple to talk about roller coasters and restaurants and shows and parades. We can have opinions on that, and there's no right or wrong answer, and nobody's gonna get fired up about that. If you like Happily Ever After better than Illuminations, you're wrong, but that's okay. And I still love you. Just messing with you. But that's the kind of political discourse I like to have on the Be Our Guest podcast. And I think that's why we all get along. And I love Happily Ever After because Mallory used to sing that every night in the shower. She would get in the shower and she would yell to her Amazon device that was in the bathroom, her little dot there, and it would be playing and she'd be singing it in the shower. And our shower in our house isn't real big. So the shower's right off the living room and I would hear it. And I'm telling you what, there's nothing better as a Disney fan and as a dad to hear your kid, singing along to a Disney theme park song. Especially when I make my living booking Disney vacations and doing a Disney podcast. We've had so many of our memories at Walt Disney World, right there on Main Street, watching that fireworks show. I can remember like thinking about it right now. I think about the last time we saw Happily Ever After. I got to go down when they restarted the cruise ships after COVID. They had that reopening. It was real weird when we went on that cruise. They invited some folks down there to go on the cruise, and I got to go on a media event, and I did a little media thing with them, and they put it on YouTube. But because I got to go on the cruise, I got to take Mallory and Paige with me on that. It was a 4-nighter to the Bahamas. And the night before, they put us up at the Grand Floridian, and we didn't have theme park tickets, so we just hung out at swam at the Grand. With that's a good night, right? That's fine. But the thing was, I knew Happily Ever After was going away like a month later. None of us would be back before then, so we just sat there right outside of Gasparillas and watched Happily Ever After from right on those steps that lead down to the water. And I just remember how full my heart was, right? It was great. I was there with my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, and dad and daughter. I mean, it was the only thing missing was Pam, but she had to work. That have made it perfect. But it was pretty cool to be there and to know that was the last time I was. Well, maybe it was the last time I was seeing it. We thought it was the last time. I think it might be coming back. Who knows? Well, they said it was coming back in some form. I don't know if it'll be exactly the same, but it was that moment. And as Disney fans, we treasure those things. I think more than other fandoms. We love those moments where we know this. I think we can appreciate at the time better than a lot of fandoms that this moment in time we need to step back and say, I appreciate where I am right now and who I'm with and why I'm here and what I've sacrificed to be here. Because think about it, when we go to Walt Disney World, we go on a Disney cruise, we go to Disneyland, we've sacrificed a lot to get there. You know, there's a lot of things that we don't do here. We trim corners here and there so we can afford our Disney vacations. We do that here many times. But, it's worth it when we get there and we have those moments where we get to sit on Main Street USA on a hot July night and get to be a family and just watch fireworks. Nothing else in the world matters, and for that week, we get up in the morning, the only thing we have to do, I always tell my family, the only thing we have to do today, it's a Tuesday. The only thing we have to do today is go have fun. What do we want to do? We don't have to go to work. We don't have to go to school. We don't have to take care of chores. We don't have to walk the dog, which I love walking Riley, but we don't have to pick up the mess after she goes to the bathroom. We don't have to do any of the stuff we have to do in the real world. Today is a family. All we have to do is go have fun. All we have to do is go play. What do we want to do? Let's go make some memories. And how blessed are we? How cool is that? We all get to do that as Disney fans. I don't know where that came from, but there it is. I think we all like that. So anyway, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We haven't been together since Thanksgiving. I hope it was great for you. It could not have been better for me. Let me recap what happened around here. So of course we host Thanksgiving. So we had Pam's family all come over, her sisters and in-laws, the sibling, her sisters and husbands and kids. So we had about 15 or 20 people here to have turkey. We also have a honey baked ham. We have all the sides. We have the dressing balls, the famous dressing balls that my grandma used to have before she passed. And now Pam makes them. So if you want to see those, they are on Instagram. I put those on Instagram every year. They're so good. chocolate pies. We had banana cream pies, pumpkin pies. We had it all the sides, green beans, corn, mashed potatoes, cranberries, everything. So we had good food. We watched a lot of football, good egg bowl, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Of course, Mizzou won. The miracle of all miracles happened over Thanksgiving. All my football teams pretty much won. Everybody, it was a crazy weekend. A lot of upsets because it was rivalry weekend in college. I really care about college more than pros. There were so many upsets, but most importantly, there were really good games. Most importantly, well, two things. Mizzou won their game against our rival Arkansas, barely, but we won, which means we get to go to a bowl game because we're an awesome 6-6 this year, 500. But you got to win 6 games to get to go to a bowl game. So we will find out on Sunday where we get to go. Hope we get to go to the Liberty Bowl. That would be awesome because that's down in Memphis. It's not a very nice. If you live in Memphis, I'm not trying to dog on you. We've gone to the Liberty Bowl a few years back. I think it was in 2019 we went. It's a historic stadium, like a place to watch a football game. I think it's a Liberty Bowl. I think it was built in 76. And it is historic, and there's been great games there, but it's kind of dumpy. It's not real nice. But it's easy to get to from St. Louis. Like we can drive there, so it's cheap. We can actually just drive down and drive back on the same day. So you don't have to get a hotel or anything like that. You just got to get your tickets. And there's a possibility we could play Kansas, which that's our big rival. Forget Arkansas. They're our fake rival from the SEC. We hate Kansas. It's like Michigan and Ohio State. We would love one more chance to stomp a hole in Kansas down at the Liberty Bowl. So if we get that, that'd be a great gift from Santa. So we would be there, but possibly it could be in the Texas Bowl. We could be in Las Vegas, a couple other places, Birmingham. So we'll see. But I would like to go to the bowl game. But it's good that we just get to talk about that. It gives me as a Mizzou football fan, and I know we're not a great team, but I'm still a fan no matter what. It makes my football season last about another 3 or 4 weeks, which is kind of fun. Also, most importantly, I've been talking about this all year on the podcast. Our high school football team, the Francis Hall Vikings, still a perfect 13-0 at this point. We have made it to the state finals in Class 5A. We're one of 2 teams left. So we play for the state championship this Friday. It's 7:00, and the game is at Mizzou. We play on the field where the Mizzou Tigers play. And it's very cool because this team is really good. I stayed home from Wine and Dine weekend for 2 reasons. One, my knee was about 50-50. I could have made it through the races. It's probably, I thought by not going to Wine and Dine, my knee would be like in great shape by marathon. My knee is not better. It's not getting worse, but it's not getting better. It's staying the same. So marathon is going to be interesting. So that Sunday for the full marathon will be super interesting. We'll see what happens. But I stayed home because my knee was not perfect and it was not going to be super enjoyable to run all those races. But 2, it was the first round of the playoffs for this football team. And I knew we had something special this year. Our football team is really good and they play for each other. And our community really comes out and supports this team. We just moved here in 2019. And one of the things I really like about this area that we moved to is how the community rallies around the high school. Where we used to live, and I think I've mentioned this before, we weren't even allowed to have Friday night lights. The area where we used to live in St. Louis, the suburb, was kind of a dangerous area. Now, it wasn't when I was growing up. And remember, I celebrated my 49th birthday on Sunday. So, I've lived in St. Louis my whole life. And I lived in that area where I grew up until 2019. My whole life, I lived in North St. Louis County. When I was growing up, that was the place to live in St. Louis. All the engineers from McDonnell Douglas lived there. It was a booming part. It was the really, where all the blue collar families, starter homes, everybody lived there. It was a great place to be when I was kind of a kid. But it has kind of shifted over the years, and it's become a little bit, a lot dangerous in North St. Louis County. And they're not allowed to do Friday night lights football games there. They haven't for 10, 15 years because people were getting shot. There was just a lot of gang activity and stuff at the football game. So we never had that experience at our old house because they couldn't do it. So the community never got together for these football games, nothing like that. So we come out here and we see that they do this. Like everybody comes out, they barbecue. We have Chick-fil-A at the games. There's a snow cone food truck. I mean, it's a big deal. There's a merchandise. There's a store for the football team. It's awesome. And I just love to be a part of that. I love to support these athletes. I love to support the cheerleaders. I love to support the band. I love to support, everybody that's out there, these teachers, everybody. We get together. These businesses support, the programs. It's pretty amazing. And so to have a great year like we've had and to be able to play all the way up to the last game, which we're going to do on Friday night, win or lose is a successful season. But how special would that be to be a state champion? Because in our class, we're not the biggest class, 6A is, but they've said many times this is the hardest class to win because we have the most schools. So we'll see on Friday night. And the coolest thing is Mallory gets to cheer on the field at Mizzou. So as a dad of a daughter, I mean, I've had lots of proud dad moments with Paige and with Mallory. They've done super cool stuff. Mallory's cheered at Walt Disney World a few times. Paige has done many cool things. I watch her basketball team, who, by the way, the University of Illinois Chicago Flames won 3 games all of last year. They won 3 games the entire last year. They are currently sitting at 6-1 this season. So they've already doubled the win total. They have not even started conference play. So I'm proud of that team. She's the director of basketball operations for that squad. I mean, I'm proud of my daughters, and I get to watch Mallory on Friday night cheer at Mizzou. Pretty cool. And our seats are going to be where our season tickets are. So that's kind of ironic that we're going to be sitting in the same spot. So that's what we'll be doing this Friday night. Super proud of that. So, and also, I got to reflect on Thursday on Thanksgiving. Of course, I watched the Macy's parade. Mizzou marched in it at the very beginning. A lot of people sent me messages like, "Hey, we saw Mizzou." I know you might not think that's a big deal, but I'm telling you what, when you're from Missouri and people say, "Hey, we saw Mizzou marching in the parade," that makes us super proud. If you're like from Notre Dame or you're from Michigan or you're from Ohio State or you're from the University of Florida, any of these large schools, Texas, like it might not be a big deal to you, like USC, UCLA, whatever. When somebody's like, "We saw Mizzou," we get excited about that because we just want to know that who Mizzou is. And I hope that, like, I wear Mizzou stuff a lot. One is because Paige just brought it home all the time. I got all this gear for free from the athletic department. She would, every time she came home, she'd bring me coach's gear out of the closet. So I have tons of it because, again, she just gave it to me. But the thing is, I hope that you recognize when you see our logo, the Tiger logo, that you do have a positive outlook on the Missouri Tigers, on Mizzou. And you're like, I know that school because I am proud of Mizzou. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud to be Mike from the Midwest. I'm proud to be Mike from Missouri. I love where I'm from. Our state isn't perfect. It is, and no states are, but I am proud to be from Missouri in the black and gold. So I was excited when people said, "Hey, Mike, I saw Mizzou in the Macy's Day Parade," because it made me proud to see our Tigers marching in the parade. And when other people said, "We saw your school," I was like, yeah, we are in the big parade in New York City. That's a big deal for us, and we were excited for that. So, and I also did have time on Thursday to reflect on how lucky I am to have an awesome wife, 2 wonderful daughters, and her family's awesome. My family's awesome. I have a job that I love, and I had another job that I loved before this. I love teaching. Teaching was great. I love my students. I got to do some cool stuff. I taught at Space Camp. I mean, I got to meet amazing people down there. And now I get to podcast for a living. I get to book vacations for a living. I mean, I'm super blessed, and I get to reflect on that on Thursday. And you are a huge part of the blessing. So just know that, because without you, I wouldn't be able to podcast. I wouldn't be able to plan vacations. And I just hope that you had a little warm feeling in your heart on Thursday for all the good stuff that you have going on with your family, maybe your significant other, maybe accomplishments. Maybe you've, completed some schooling this year, got a promotion at work, done something in the community that's helped out folks around you, whatever it is. Just, I hope that you are thriving and that you're having a good holiday season as we kick that off. I'm so thankful for you. Anyway, let's get to the feedback from last week. We didn't have a lot. We had 2 pieces of feedback. Of course, it was the holiday weekend, so and we're doing it on 6 days notice instead of 7 because I recorded a day late last week because I had to move the studio, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But Tricia, she is as reliable as the Be Our Guest podcast. She's here, and she says, I remember, and this has to do with, I talked about mentors, and I mentioned how Leo Laporte, this radio guy, mentioned that he's going to stop doing his radio show. He's going to continue to podcast, but he's going to stop doing his radio show. And I got to meet him one time, kind of fanboyed about meeting him a few years ago in 2020. And it just kind of hit me like, oh man, he's going away. And then like Yadier Molina, he's going away. Like it'll really hit me in April when he's not on the field. Like, where's Yadi? He's been on the field like for the last 20 years. Like, why is he not behind the plate? So Trisha says, I remember when Brett Favre retired from the Green Bay Packers. I grew up watching him as he struggled through some difficult times and rose to be a memorable player. It hurt more, though, when he came out of retirement to play for the Vikings. I know. Now, if Yadi comes back and plays for the Cubs, all bets are off. Dude, I have his bobblehead. I'll just rip the head off the bobblehead. No, just kidding, but I might. I also watched Home Improvement with my family. It felt like it felt like a member of my family was moving away and I'd never see them again when I was watching the series finale. Thankfully, we can stream it now. And one of our holiday traditions is to binge watch the holiday episodes from each season. We introduced our daughter to it this year and it's fun to watch her crack up. You know what? I've never thought about that on a yeah, okay, that brings up another point. Maybe I'll talk about that. I'm going to save it because that brings up a good thing I want to talk about in the future about how TV was different in our day because it was way different and it made you emotional more than it does today. Kids don't know the pain. And also, Christy Arthurs, thank you for being a Patreon patron, Christy. She says it's funny what you said about Leo's podcast because that's exactly how I felt when you announced the big changes coming a few years ago in 2017 or so, I think. I was so worried you were canceling the podcast. So glad it's still running strong and dread the day you decide to call it in. Well, you know what, Christy? This is the last show. No, just kidding. It's not. The thing is, I will know when it's time when it's not fun anymore and it just becomes, a task. But I will tell you what, I'll be honest with because this is a smaller subgroup of the larger audience of the Be Our Guest podcast. I think you guys know I love doing the show. Like I have so much fun. I used to be so nervous, like when I first started doing the show, like in 2008, 2009, 2010, I wanted to make the show perfect. And I wanted to make it like a radio show. And I was always worried about what people would think about the show. And I still worry about what you think. I want you to always love the show. And I don't want you to think that it's amateur hour or anything like that. But what I've learned over the years, I think, is that you like us for who we are. This is just who I am. I'm not faking who I am. Scott is who he is. I talk to him all the time. It's exactly the same. Ricky and Pam, exactly the same as they are with me. And you know what? If I have to crack up and laugh a lot, that's how it's going to be on the show. That's just what it is. I used to kind of stifle that the first few years because I thought, you got to be professional. You got to be Mr. Radio guy. You know what? We're a podcast. And it's fun. Like what we're doing is fun. And I love podcasting. I mean, we're talking about fun stuff. Some of the stuff we talk about is kind of dumb. It's like rating stuff. Who cares? Like we're not changing the world, but it's fun, and it's funny sometimes. So, Christy, I appreciate that. We're going to be around for quite a while because this is the fun stuff. And I appreciate you guys giving us the support to do this all the time. So anyway, if you have feedback about this show or any other episode of the Be Our Guest podcast, I need it for next week's podcast. So swing by patreon.com/Be Our Guest podcast. All right, to today's topic. Let's talk about getting older. No, not necessarily getting older. But I mentioned this a couple times on this coming week's shows, on Wednesdays and Friday shows. And I was thinking about this after my birthday, which we celebrated on Sunday, and how lucky I am to have the family that I have, the girls that I have. Of course, Paige is up in Chicago coaching, so she's not here, but Mallory and Pam are here. And so Sunday morning, I wake up, I get my run in or my walk in on Sunday and come upstairs and take, Riley out and come back in. And the girls get up and, they're like, it's time for your gifts. It's, happy birthday. So they make me sit down and close my eyes in my chair. And so I sit in my chair in the living room and, close my eyes and, they sneak out my gifts. And here's the thing. Pam has always been the best gift giver ever. Like she listens throughout the year and always gets the perfect gift. I'm the opposite of that. I am the worst gift giver. I try. I honestly try. But I think I have like a gene that I'm terrible at giving gifts. And I get anxiety this time of year because I want to be a good gift giver, but I'm terrible at it. And I think what it is, it's anxiety because Pam is so good at giving gifts that it puts me like I feel like so inferior all the time. Anyway, so I sit in my chair and I hear them like they leave the room, Mallory and Pam, and they tell me to close my eyes. So I do, and I don't want to ruin the surprise. I'll play along. So I do, and then I hear like a bunch of noise, and they come out, and they're in front of me, and like, your eyes still closed? I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, open your eyes. And so I open my eyes, and right in front of me is this really nice office chair with a box or with two boxes wrapped in the chair itself. The chair had three bows on it in a Mickey head, of course. Like a hidden Mickey, three bows, two ears, and a head. Very cool. They're smart, right? You guys would appreciate that. So I get a nice office chair. So I get the two boxes. And they're like, you got to open up your boxes. So I do. First box I open is this little, it's a light, which you'll see here on the video. If you look at the stream on YouTube, you'll see it on, if you ever drop in for the live shows, it's a little box behind me that says on air. And I've joked with them forever, for years, that I said, if I ever get a podcast studio, I'm going to get a light that says on air for when I'm on the air. So you know that I am doing a podcast. Now you can't tell. I have spotlights on. I'm talking into a microphone. I think you could tell if you were in my house that I am on the air recording a podcast. However, my radio dream, Mr. Microphone from when I was 6, running around with a microphone in my house, my Fisher Price Mr. Microphone, I always wanted an on-air light, like I could be a radio guy. So they got me that because they saw it on Instagram or something like that. And I thought that was super thoughtful. In the other box, I opened that one up, and it's a pair of very warm boots, kind of men's boots. They're UGG boots because the girls all had these UGG boots. They're really fancy, nice boots. And the thing is, this is why I wanted to kind of talk about this. So for my birthday, I got the on-air sign, and I got a chair, warm boots, and I got a room. So Paige moved out to Chicago, took all of her stuff. Obviously, she had to take her bed, her dresser, because she got an apartment up there because she's living up there. That's where she is now. She coaches up there. So we took her bedroom. We didn't know what to do with it. When we bought this house, I did say, because her bedroom is in the basement, and our whole basement's finished. And I said, God, that room over there would make an awesome podcast studio. That when we walked through the house initially before we bought it, because it is way in the corner of the house. It's in the basement. It's away from everything else. And it's perfect for a podcast studio. But I knew, it's a 3-bedroom house. Mallory needed a bedroom. Paige needed a bedroom. We needed a bedroom. So I've been doing the podcast from the corner of the living room in the basement ever since we moved in. Well, when Paige moved out about a month ago, probably about 2 months ago, she took most of her stuff out. She left behind a bunch of old like Mizzou backpacks and all the stuff she didn't want to clutter up her place with. So finally, we got a hold of Spectrum. The first thing that had to happen was we had to get the internet because my rule is if you're going to record a podcast, you have to be on Ethernet, no Wi-Fi. I tell that to Ricky and Pam and Scott. You cannot be on Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is too slow and sketchy. You must be hardwired. And I follow that advice myself. So I had to have Spectrum come out and move the cable, or the internet connection from where it was, which was over in the corner of the living room where I did my old podcast from, to this room, which we got done. Well, how that happened was last week, Pam was off the entire week for Thanksgiving. She was off Monday through Friday. Well, she called, I think, on Tuesday to schedule them coming out. And I figured it'd be like a month. These places never come out fast. She texts me, I'm walking Riley around the lake. They can be out here in an hour to move the internet. Should they come out? I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm scared if we don't say yes, it's going to be like a month, right? Or 2 months. So I run in with Riley. I meet the cable guy. He's awesome, the internet guy. Tell him what I'm looking for. I want it in this corner. Can you do that? He's like, no problem. We'll get it done. Dude, he gets it done in like 45 minutes. Boom. So now this is why Mike in the Midwest was a day late last week, because now that the internet is now in my room that I wanted to set up for the podcast studio. I have to move the computer desk. I have to move my computer. I have to move my lights. I have to move everything. So Pam thankfully does help me do all this. And by the way, she had already, with Mallory, painted this room Mizzou gold because I knew I wanted this room. And she was doing this for my birthday. She painted the room Mizzou gold. She let me pick out the color. So it's the Mizzou gold color with the back wall being 30% gray so I can flash LED lights up to kind of change the color of the wall. But she did it exactly how I wanted it. So I got for my birthday a room, warm boots, and a chair. And when you think about this, I was reflecting on this. Some people might say those are terrible gifts. Those are not fun. Like, you might want to play with, some people might be like, oh, you should have got a trip or you could have got, something to play with, like a video game system, like a PlayStation or, like arcade one up, which, those are fun. I kind of would like to have one of those, but I was reflecting on it. A chair, a podcast studio, and some warm boots. And let me tell you about the warm boots. We've had 2 football games down the stretch here in the playoffs where we've gone to the games. And these games are, of course, on Friday nights. And it has been extremely cold here in St. Louis early in the year. Like the temperatures have been in the low 20s for these 2 football games. And I have all kinds of warm weather gear because of running. I have a lot of that Nike stuff. It's called like Under Armour, not Under Armour, but like I don't know. It says something on it, but it's that stuff the football players wear under their uniforms. It's super insulated for running and playing sports in the super cold. I have that head thing that the football players all wear under their helmets that cover your entire face except for your eyes. I am total, and I got great gloves. And we have a lot of those hand warmer things that you put inside your gloves. I even have toe warmers that you stick. They're made by the hand warmer people. You stick them onto your socks. They actually stick to your socks to keep your feet warm. Well, the last 2 football games we went to, and all I do have is sneakers. I only have sneakers. I have a lot of sneakers, but I only have sneakers. And so we went to these football games, and I was totally fine. I was totally warm with my heavy coat and all my running gear under it, my stocking caps, that Nike thing that covers up my neck and my cheeks. I was good, except my feet were freezing, even with the feet warmers. And Pam just kept telling me, oh, my feet are snug as a bug in a rug in these warm boots. And I said, I would be so comfortable if my feet were this warm. My feet are killing me. And so both games, my feet just hurt so bad. And she listened. And so she got me a gift in these warm boots that I'm sure I'm going to have for years to come. And what it's going to do is it's going to help me enjoy being outside in the cold weather in the wintertime. And every time I have those on, I can foresee, of course, today it's 67 degrees outside. That's St. Louis. It's going to be 32 tomorrow, though. So we're good. So it's just thoughtfulness, right? Pam took a lot of time to paint this room. Pam called Spectrum to get the internet all. She did that. She got that all squared away so they would move the internet. When they came out and quickly moved it, she was the one that helped me move the desk, move the computer, move the light. She was in here. It was her week off, but she did all that for me. She got me a comfortable chair because for the last 10 years of doing the podcast, I've been using this secondhand chair that was thrown away at the school district where I used to teach. It was an old, surplus chair that they were going to throw in the trash. It wasn't really comfortable. It was broken, but I liked it because it was super silent. It wasn't comfortable, but it didn't make a lot of noise if I didn't move. So that's why I've been using it. But this chair is brand new and it goes up and down. It's got, a lot of cushion in it. I mean, how thoughtful is that? While I'm working now, I have a comfortable chair and I have an adjustable chair so I can go up and down for the shots on the podcast. So when you think about it, I think you reflect more on these the older you get. And I'm super thankful that my birthday is over Thanksgiving because it's a time of reflection of how thankful you are. And Mallory was super excited to be able to be a part of these gifts as well, and Paige too, even though she's up in Chicago. But some people might not say a room, a chair, and some warm boots. Those are not the perfect gifts. But for me this past birthday, a chair, a room, and some warm boots, perfect. because what have I dreamed of my entire life? No kidding. And I think every school teacher dreams this. I've never had an office. I've always had a classroom. Now I always pretended like that was my office, but I shared it with usually about 30 kids. I've never had a door that closes for my podcast. Right now, I got the door closed. Nobody's going to come in and bug me. I'm doing a podcast in a studio with the door closed. I've hung a TV on the wall here in the studio that I can have on while I'm working, booking vacations for folks. It's perfect in here. I have a mini fridge next to me. It used to be in Pam's classroom until they told them they can't have mini fridges anymore because it causes the electric bill to be too high in the school district. So she had to bring it home. So it's been sitting in our garage for 2.5 years. So I brought that in from the garage, cleaned it up. It's loaded with Coke Zeros. So I have Coke Zeros here 2 feet away from me. I mean, I love it. Like, I love this room that they gave me for a studio for my birthday. I love it. Warm boots, love it. My feet are going to be warm. They're super comfortable to wear. In this chair, every time I sit down and work, I'm going to be more comfortable. That's love. And that's why I'm super thankful for everything I have in my life. So, as we get into the holiday season and you maybe get, think about those holiday movies where a kid gets like warm socks or something for Christmas, and that's the worst thing ever. Yeah, when you're a kid, that is the worst thing. I get it. You got to be at a certain place in your life. But I think I finally pushed over the hill where, man, even the most boring of gifts, when you think about where it comes from, can be the most special gift of all. So I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I hope you give me some feedback. Have you had that situation in your life where you've gotten something for a birthday, Christmas, Hanukkah, some kind of special celebration where the real world might say, you got that? You're excited about that. But who it came from and why, that's the story. And that's why it's so special. Let me know. Let's share it for next week's show. But until we get back together again, I hope you have a great week. Have fun. Most importantly, go Vikings. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.